everyone, it's Hailey, and today I wanted to talk about the books that I'm hoping to read this February. There, if you wanted to look at Charlie while I'm talking, you can do that. I'm sure it's more exciting looking at me. But hello, everyone. Thanks for your patience. The start of this year has been a little bit rougher than expected. I came off of Bookmas and gave myself a little bit of a break because obviously it was a lot of work posting a video every day in December, and then that break ended up being a little bit longer than I was expecting. And then as I was getting back to things, I received the news from home that we had to put Jackson down. So if you guys are longtime viewers of my channel, you know Jackson. I don't want to talk about it too much because it will upset me again. I think because I wasn't home and it happened very quickly, he wasn't suffering or anything. But yeah, you guys know 5 years ago or so he was diagnosed with cancer and we thought he didn't have very long left, and then he ended up lasting 5 years. He was almost 15 years old. So I'm trying not to think about it too much, but definitely since I wasn't there, it kind of feels like he's just still at home. I actually am going home later in this month, and originally it was because he wasn't really doing very well, I was going to see him, but now I'm going to get his ashes and bring them here, but I'm kind of disconnecting myself from that. But basically, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for all of your condolences and nice messages. It has not gone unnoticed, but I haven't really been in the headspace to be making videos, unfortunately, because of that. It's just kind of been, an interesting, unfortunate start to the year, but that's kind of reflected in this TBR in the fact that I have a lot of really just light and fluffy and fun reads, and that's kind of these sort of things that I have been going for lately, and I feel probably will continue to go for throughout the month. I definitely haven't been reading as much as I was in January. I just have not really been feeling motivated to, but that being said, I still have been reading a lot. I kind of started January reading 5 books in a week, and it's just been 2 books in a week, which is still really great. I'm not complaining at all about that, but it just has been kind of different. I noticed my motivation has kind of been different. So this is definitely a very romance heavy TBR. I've got lots of that on here, and I mean, it is appropriate because it's Valentine's Day. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So first of all, the book that I'm currently reading is I'm So Not Over You by Kosako Jackson, and this is definitely a really interesting romance because it's with exes. So it's unlike anything that I've read because I've never really read something where the relationship is over and I'm not really sure what the ending is going to be. Usually with a romance, part of the reason that I love them and that I'm reading them right now is because I want that guaranteed happily ever after. But here I'm not really sure. Is there going to be a happily ever after? I mean, I feel probably between the two of them, but then I'm also I don't really know. So it's definitely very interesting. This is also a gay romance, and I think they definitely have chemistry. I can totally see it, and I am having a lot of fun with listening to this audiobook so far. So I'm not very far into it, but I am liking it a lot. Next, speaking of romances, Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. So this is of course the latest book by Ali Hazelwood, who's the author of The Love Hypothesis, and that book was super hyped up, but I kind of have noticed people have really mixed feelings on her writing. I liked it, and I am interested to read more. I don't know, this cover absolutely screams Valentine's Day to me, but this is once again a woman in STEM romance, and I'm not sure what the tropes are. I think it's, yeah, so it's enemies to lovers. B is the main character, and it says on the back, B's theory was right. Forcing a scientist to work with her nemesis triggers explosive results. So I'm definitely expecting an enemies to lovers, but woman in STEM sort of thing, and yeah, it should be a fun read. Next is I Kiss Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. So Casey McQuiston is the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue and One Last Stop, and this is their first YA novel, and this kind of gives me Paper Towns vibes, and I read One Last Stop last year and I really loved it, so since then I have been looking forward to reading this one. The main character, Shara Wheeler, is kind of her arch nemesis, her academic rival, if you will, and basically what happens is close to graduation, Shara Wheeler kisses her and then completely disappears. So obviously she has a lot of questions and is what is actually actually happening and is trying to figure that out. And I feel like this could be super cute. And this is once again, actually, this wasn't even intentional, but a cover that like definitely is very Valentine's Day-esque. Getting away from the romances for a second, next is Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. I've had this book for a very long time and have really been wanting to read it. It is kind of like, it's a memoir-ish sort of thing. I forget what they specifically call it. It's like a magical memoir because it's this remarkable story of a teenage wizard. So it says, I feel like this is just easier if I read this. This is heavily autobiographical and infused with magical realism. Black Girl Magic fearlessly explores the intersections of poverty, sexual violence, depression, racism, and sexism. So it is like partially autobiographical, which is really interesting, but also that kind of magical realism element I'm very intrigued by. But it being Black History Month, I feel like this is the perfect time to read this. I mean, any time of year I could read this, but it feels quite appropriate. Next is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. So this is finally like actually traditionally published now, but I believe that the author had self-published this book. It is by the author of The Atlas Six, and I haven't read The Atlas Six yet. I've heard really mixed things about it, but I do have it, and actually the sequel, so maybe I'll read that one very soon as well. But this one, since it is a love story, I felt like, you know, this time of year, sort of like Valentine's Day-esque, a love story seems perfect, but I'm not sure like what kind of love story it is. Looking at the cover, it doesn't look like kind of the traditional love story, but I feel like this is one that I'm kind of just gonna go into and see how I feel about it. Next is Where We End and Begin by Jane Icaro. So I read Ties That Tether by this author last year, and I think somewhere I have her like second book, but basically I'm wanting to read more Jane Icaro. I really enjoyed Ties That Tether, so I feel like I would really enjoy like her other books as well. This one is a second chance romance, which is like my favorite romance trope, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. It's about star-crossed lovers, but also second chance romance, and they're reunited and get this second chance at a wedding, and I just think everything about that sounds good. I believe that this one is set in Nigeria. Yes, so she returns to Nigeria for a friend's wedding, and there she like runs into the guy that, you know, her second chance romance. I am so excited. Next is The No Show by Beth O'Leary. This is set at Valentine's Day, so it sounds absolutely perfect for obviously this time of year. We have three women who seemingly have like nothing in common, nothing to do with each other, but they do actually have something in common, which is that they were all stood up by the same man on Valentine's Day. I cannot, like, how even John Tucker Must Die, definitely those vibes here. It sounds really good. Now, the thing here is that I've read another book by this author. This is the author of The Flat Share, and I didn't really like The Flat Share. So I am a little bit skeptical going into this one, but I'm gonna give her a second chance, and I'm gonna really hope that I like this one. Next is Dating You, Hating You by Christina Lauren. I really enjoy Christina Lauren, except I kind of have had mixed feelings on a lot of their books. Like, they've written some of my favorites, but then they've also written some that I didn't like so much. Like their last release, I wasn't really a big fan of, but they have a new book coming out this year and I'm hoping I'll like it. But this one has been out for a while and I've had it for a while, and I feel like now is the perfect time to kind of get it off of my TBR. So it's a hate to love sort of story, obviously, and I think it's going to be like a little bit more steamy and sexy than their other books that I've read. So we'll see how I feel about that. Next is Rise to the Sun by Leah Johnson. So Leah Johnson is the author of You Should See Me in a Crown, which I really liked. It is such a cute, like, sapphic romance and just a great YA sapphic romance, honestly. So I was really excited when she had a new book coming out, and now I've had this one for quite a while. It's set at like festivals in the summer, and it's a romance set at these different festivals. So if I don't read it now, I feel like summer is a good time to read it, but I know how much like I really enjoyed her first romance novel, so it seems like a great time to read another one by her. Next is The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams. So I read another book by this author, How to Fail at Flirting. That was like pretty hyped up on TikTok, and this one I haven't heard too much about, but I did enjoy the writing of this author the first time I read it. So I was like, more? Yeah. It's about a main character who ends up falling for her personal trainer, and I think that just sounds absolutely adorable, and like I'm here for it. Next up is Love from Scratch by Caitlin Hill. This cover, man, it just gets me. It's like this enemies to lovers sort of thing where these two characters, they're competing for this internship on this baking show. So we have baking and we have enemies to lovers, romance blossoming. It sounds so cute. And this whole jacket art is beautiful. Next up is Friday, I'm in Love by Cameron Garrett. I've read books by Cameron Garrett before, and now I have 2 more on my TBR, but this one came out recently, and look at this cover once again. Like, this is beautiful. But we have a character who never really got to enjoy her sweet 16, and now it's too late for that, so she has a coming out party. I love that. I think it seems absolutely adorable, really, really pure, and like, I'm definitely looking forward to this one. So the last couple of books that I have here, although like, if I'm deciding not to read just romance for the month, which I probably will veer off of that because I'll kind of get tired of it and burned out from it, I don't really know what I'm gonna pick up. I'm going to film a winter TBR soon, so I'll probably pick up some of the books from that video, so stay tuned for that. But In 5 Years is the next book that I want to talk about here, and this is by Rebecca Searle. So I read One Italian Summer by this author last summer, and I really liked it. She kind of writes like contemporary romances with a little bit of a twist, and this one is no exception. It's about a character who has like everything planned out, and then she gets engaged to her boyfriend, is super thrilled, but then she ends up like waking up and it's 5 years in the future, and she's not with the same guy, and she's trying to figure out like what happened here. Seems really interesting. I know my sister read this one and really enjoyed it, so I'm really intrigued. And finally is Love Radio by Ebony Liddell. So I've had this book for a bit now, and it just makes me think of, there was like this radio show, I don't know if it was just on Family Channel or if it was on Disney Channel as well, but like Family Channel, if you don't know, is like the Canadian equivalent to Disney Channel. So I think it was called Radio Free Roscoe. I don't remember, but it was like this radio show essentially where they had like this radio show at a high school and like following all these different characters. I really can't remember it all that well, but just the story, like the radio thing, makes me think of it. So I really don't know what this one is about, to be honest. I was just like, oh, radio love, yes. So it follows the main character, Prince, who seems to have all the answers, and oh, it's actually set in Detroit. That's cool. So he has a popular hip-hop show in Detroit called Love Radio, where he dishes out advice to the brokenhearted. So he seems to like always have the answers, and he's always dreamed of becoming a DJ and falling in love, but he's actually a caretaker for his mother who has MS. And then he meets this girl, Danny, and she is very focused on her plan to get a scholarship, become a famous author and everything, and Prince gets her to agree to go on 3 dates to convince her that he's worth falling for and like veering off plan a little bit. That sounds adorable. Okay, so those are all of the books that I am hoping to read this month. I'm hoping to be able to kind of like up my reading game again, or I mean, it has been really good. I'm too hard on myself, but whatever. I'm hoping to read a lot of these books because I have so many books that I want to read and I want to get to all of them. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please let me know what's on your February TBR because I would love to know, and I will see you guys in another new video soon. Bye!